Okay, welcome back to literature. We're going to finish our five elements page. We only have the plot to look for on chapter 2, scene 2. We finished reading all the way to the end of page 22, and there's a picture there on the opposite of Walter with his grandfather Walter. Okay, Walter Tell with grandfather Walter first. So let's turn the page to page 24. And let's review really quick what is a plot. The plot is the event that makes up the story. In this case, it's the event that makes up this scene. This scene, we've been talking about William Tell, and he's on his way to town because he wants to find something out. All right. So everything that's happening is based on going to find out if Gessler has found out their secret. All right. So it has something to do with talking. All right. So the top of page 24. Well, well, bless my old eyes. What brings the two of you to Altdorf this cold day? Asked the older man. It's going to rain too. Why are you not herding the goats, Walter? And you, William, hunting for deer or for fox? Tell winked and in a low voice answered, perhaps the same thing that brings you here first. So he called him by his last name. He called his dad by his last name first, which made grandfather smile. Come in and let us drink together then. And Walter too. He's growing up, that lad, said grandfather first, looking down at the boy. As the three entered the low door of the old inn, Tell stooped, for he was a big man. Walter followed and ran to the hearth to warm his cold hands. The men sought a dark corner of the room where they might talk and not be overheard. Soon a maidservant brought 3 brown mugs of cider on a tray. Walter joined his father and grandfather and slowly sipped the delicious drink. He was sorry when he could see the bottom of the mug and there was no more cider. The grown-ups were talking about things he did not understand, and he twisted and fidgeted on the hard bench. He was kind of getting bored because they were talking about things he didn't understand, hoping his father would buy another mug of cider for him. But his father just glanced down at him and said, "You are restless, Walter. Why don't you find that bear that you're always talking about and the eagle?" And he said this, as he said this, he placed a forefinger over his mouth. He went like this to him. It was a sign. Walter knew what that meant. He must keep the secret. Smiling, Walter ran through the room. Okay, so we found our event. Are you able to tell what the event is? Okay, so they're acting very, trying to act like nothing's going on. They're just there in town and they're not there for anything that, how should I say? They're only there on just regular business like any other day. All right. So our event is William Tell is saying something to Walter. He's saying, why don't you find the bear you're always talking about and the eagle? So they're going to talk about the secret and they don't want, remember, mom told him the secret, but dad doesn't know that he knows the secret. So he sent him outside and he knew that he liked looking at the bear. There was a bear in town in a cage. And so he says, why don't you go look at the bear? You know, he didn't want him to tell him, we're going to be talking about a secret. So he didn't want to say that. So let's look at the board. Okay, so we're going to begin our quote with a double quote because we're quoting the author, but we're also quoting William Tell. So we have a quote to say that someone is saying this, someone is speaking it. Uppercase Walter, and there's a comma. There's a pause. When we read this, we say Walter, and we stop for a minute, not a minute, a second. Why don't you find the bear you're always talking about, comma. We pause for a second, and the eagle. And what's this? William, Nathan, David, and Josias. I don't know if you guys saw this in beginner class, but this is what's called a question mark. When someone asks a question, we put a question mark. So the reader knows that there's a question being asked. So you put a question mark. He's asking, why don't you go? So he's waiting a response from, is that okay, Dad? And a comma to close, William Tell speaking, and two quotes, to a double quote to close what the author has written. And we find this on page 24. Now, I want you to also notice this word over here. This is called a contraction. We take two words and put them together and leave some of the letters out. That comma says that we left a letter out. Do not put together is don't. Okay? So this is our, in your, this is the plot, the green letters here. The plot, for those of you guys who are new in this class, we're writing the event that makes up the story. Why are they telling Walter to go outside? There's something going on, okay? Now, this is the event. Every event has a cause. When we write the cause, we put it in parentheses. We don't know what the cause is yet, but I started it off here. For those that are new in the class, it comes right after the event. We put a this is called a parentheses, and it's going to begin with the. So let's read our book and find the cause of why they told him to leave. Okay, so we're looking for the cause. Why did they send him out? Why did his dad say, why don't you go find that bear that you like? I'm going to reread the same paragraph again that we were just left off. As the three entered the low door of the old inn, Hal stooped, for he was a big man. Walter followed and ran to the hearth to warm his cold hands. The men sought a dark corner of the room where they might talk and not be overheard. Soon a maidservant brought 3 brown mugs of cider on a tray. Walter joined his father and grandfather and slowly sipped the delicious drink. He was sorry when he could see the bottom of the mug and there was no more cider. The grown-ups were talking about things he did not understand, and he twisted and fidgeted on the hard bench, hoping his father would buy another mug of cider for him. But his father just glanced down at him and said, "You are restless, Walter. Why don't you go find the bear that you're always talking about and the eagle?" So he noticed that his son was restless. He didn't understand what they were saying, so that he sent him outside because he was bored. All right, and that's the cause. That's why his dad sent him outside. So this is what you've already written up here for your event. You already wrote this up to here. Remember, we have a parentheses, the, and this is where our cause begins. It's inside the parentheses, and we close with the parentheses down here. So it starts here and ends here. The grown-ups were talking about things he did not understand, and he twisted and fidgeted on the hard bench, comma, close with quotes, page 24. Spelling group number 1, you guys can stop right here. You can stop right here. You could put your commas here, your comma and your quotes here, and then make sure you put this here, right here. So you can stop so you don't have to write the whole thing. Okay? And that is, we're finishing up scene 2 of scene 2 of chapter 2. All right? And we'll see you guys next week in person for literature. All right, bye-bye. Pause that if you need to.